Now let's do the same thing that we just did, but for the footer content that's going to remain constant across every page. So let's jump back to our examples folder and let's copy this index.php file again and paste it in our includes folder. This time we'll rename it footer.php, and let's go ahead and open that up in our editor. If we scroll down to the bottom, the beginning of what's identical across the pages is right here with this clear div. So we're going to highlight everything above this and go ahead and delete it and save it. Okay, so now we have our header and our footer. Now in each one of our 4 page files, what we'll need to do is change the top content to include the header file, replace our footer content with an include of the footer file, and then set our title to make sure that that gets pulled into the header file, and then in the future, also to the content of our page. So if we jump back to our examples folder, let's go ahead and open up the index.php file, and let's also go to the steps folder here, and let's open up the third file, which is index.php with header and footer. Now the only difference between this file and our index.php file is that we're using these include files on the top and on the bottom, and we're also setting the title. The content has been pulled out and then moved to the far left. So if we look at our original index page, you see the content here as it begins is actually indented quite a bit because we're making sure that it fits within the context of the rest of the HTML, so it's easier to read. But we don't actually need that in our new file because we don't have any nested HTML around the content. So all of the indenting has been removed. So let's copy this code and paste it over the code in our index.php file and save it. Now we're also using the title here as the title in our h1 tag in our content. So we're duplicating this. Again, this title is used in our header.php file for the title tag in our head tag, but we're just reusing it here in the content. Okay, so let's copy this code and paste it over the code that's in the index.php file and save it. And let's go back to the browser and make sure we're on our home page. Now I'm going to go to the address bar and remove the name of our current page from it since we don't have any HTML pages anymore, and click enter. And here's our home page. So you may need to refresh this page in order to pull in the changes, but you can know if you're seeing the right page if you hover over the menu items here and see a .php file at the bottom of the browser where it's showing you the title. Remember, our other pages point to .html files because we've only changed the links in our header file, and the header file is only being used in our index.php file. Now we also see a bit of breakage here down at the bottom. This footer doesn't quite look right. And it's really common to see this happen when you take your plain HTML files and begin to create templates out of them. Sometimes you might miss a div or a closing tag or something like that. So if we take another look at our header.php file here, I'm going to just hop over to it, you see that we end this with an opening div here for our content, but then in our footer, we don't actually close that div. So let's go ahead and add that closing div in here. I'm going to add a /div, and we'll save this. And then if we jump back to the browser and refresh, you'll see that everything gets lined up properly. So it's usually a matter of just one opening or closing div that's out of place when you do this process.